How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the next lecture on OT networking and more specifically on the Stratix platform. As I have mentioned to you in a previous lecture, one of the advantages of the Stratix switches and the entire ecosystem is that you can use them inside of your Studio and RSLogix 5000 environments. So in this lecture, we're going to tackle exactly that, and I'm going to demonstrate how you can configure the switch within Studio and RSLogix 5000 so that you could use and change some of the settings from within that environment instead of going through the web UI that I had shown you in the past. Now, as a brief reminder, we can log in to the switch on the IP address that we've set not too long ago, which is 192.168.1.70 through our Ethernet-based interface. There is an important setting that we didn't configure in any of the last lectures that's going to allow us to connect via RSLinx as well as Studio 5000. So if we go into admin, device management, there's going to be the express setup configuration, which we have seen when we flashed the switch, but ultimately we did not enable what's called CIP. And so here, if we can scroll down, we'll go into advanced settings. You will notice that I have already enabled this, but we need to enable the CIP VLAN. We'll set that currently to our default VLAN 1. And we'll make sure that it is submitted and configured on the switch before we proceed to the next steps. When it comes to the actual hardware, we obviously need a PLC to run RSLogix or Studio 5000. In this case, I'm running a fairly recent model of a safety version of a CompactLogix PLC, and I have two different Ethernet ports. Again, this is part of the OT networking course, so we're going to talk about this really briefly. In this specific model of PLCs, you have two different ports, and I may have mentioned this in the past, but you can configure each port separately. So it is important to pay attention as to where you're plugging in, if you're looking to program the PLC, if it's going to a plant network, or if it's going to be talking to the switch. So in this case, remember that we have the switch on 192.168.1.70, and the PLC is going to have two interfaces, one of which is going to be the 192.168.1.5, and the other one is going to be the plant side. We'll talk about the theory in a separate video, but what you need to know is that we are on the same subnet between the PLC and the switch on that specific port of the device. Now, I'm also connected to the switch via my laptop in, as you can see, port number 3, which allows me to go online with the PLC and program what we are about to do. You're obviously going to see the confirmation of the part numbers within the PLC program, but again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. We'll send you the exact bill of materials used in this lecture.
Hi, my name is Vladimir Romanov. I am the founder of Joltek as well as Solus PLC. With a background in electrical engineering and an MBA and over a decade of experience leading projects in manufacturing and industrial automation, I help engineers, managers, and manufacturers make smarter technical and business decisions, modernize their operations, and build stronger careers. If you're serious about manufacturing, automation, and staying ahead in the industry, subscribe and join the community.
So I'm currently running Studio 5000 within a virtual machine on VMware, and this is not where I'm going to explain all the details on how to configure VMware. Ultimately, you need to have access to a couple of different tools, RSLinx, Studio 5000 or RSLogix 5000 in order to program your PLC. And so in this case, as you can see, I've already added the PLC as well as the switch, but I do want to show you the steps because it is a critical part of any OT network setup to be able to configure RSLinx within the Rockwell or Allen Bradley environment. So in this case, what I'm going to do is navigate into communication, configure drivers, driver types. I'm going to select Ethernet-based devices, click on Add New. We can leave just the next number in place, press on OK. And here I'm going to have to add my devices. Again, the switch 192.168.1.70. I'm going to press on Add New. 192.168.1.5, and that's going to be on the nameplate of the PLC on the little scrolling bar that we've just seen. I'm going to hit on apply, I'm going to hit on OK, I'm going to close out of this, and as I press on AB Ethernet 2, it should find the devices that we're expecting to be of the same IP address. It's going to take just a moment to make sure that we have the right EDS files. Again, if you're unfamiliar with that procedure, I would invite you to go to the Rockwell site and make sure that you download the right files for the PLC that you're using, as well as the switch that you're using, which may be different in that specific case. If you're stuck on any of these steps, I would also recommend that you ping the devices. I've shown you this command a couple of times, but if you type in CMD, you can simply issue ping 192.168.1.70. Press on enter, we get all 4 replies as we should expect. We can then ping the PLC on .5 and we get the 4 replies as expected, which means that we should be able to see them within RSLinx. So I'm going to type in Studio 5000 and I would like to create a brand new program so I can show you again these steps from absolute scratch with nothing in place. We're going to create new project. I'm going to select, and I've already have the selection for the controller that I have in place, which is the 5069-L306 ERMS2. I'm going to name this Joltek 002. I'm going to save that on desktop, press on next. Currently, I only have revision 34. Of course, this needs to match the PLC that you have selected, and I'm going to press on finish. So there's going to be 2 ways that you can add any device in Studio and RSLogix 5000. Obviously, we can do it offline, and that's the easy part, but I do want to connect to the PLC before we do anything else, as one of the key steps is making sure that the connection is established. We have a program that is loaded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on those little 3 dots, which would allow me and should allow me to open Factory Talk Links. It is important to note that there's going to be a difference between RSLinx Classic as well as Factory Talk Links. And so in this case, we also need to add the devices in the proper configuration. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to see them as we would expect. And there's ways to configure to add the PLC and the switch, in this case via RSLinx Classic, and in some of these newer versions via Factory Talk Links. That being said, we do have our PLC already 192.168.1.5, so it's going to be connecting to the device. Once I select it, I should be able to download the program, in which case it doesn't contain any logic. It's just going to be a pure blank program. So I'm going to press on download, confirm all the checks. The PLC is in remote run, so that should allow us to proceed. Change this back to remote run after the download has completed. And as you can see, we are online with the controller just as we would expect. Now, again, as a quick reminder, there's going to be 2 Ethernet interfaces. We need to select the correct one as we add our device. I'm going to right click, select new module. We can obviously discover as well. And in this case, I'm going to type in the part number for my switch, which is again that 1783-BMS06TL. 1783-BMS06TL. I will select the switch from the list, click on create. We can give our switch a name, so Joltek switch 001. We will double check the revision. So this is going to be different than the firmware revision that we have installed. We need to go back to the web UI to double check what this is. And so if we navigate back onto the dashboard, it should be listed on the top right section, as we have seen multiple times. But just to confirm, and again, you can disable keying. It's not going to give you too many issues, but ultimately this is your CIP Revision 13 with a minor 8. I'm going to switch back, so 13 and this should be 8. Perfect. We're going to press on OK. In this case, we have a private network, .1.70, and we should be able to press on OK. It's perfectly fine to create it online. We are in a test environment. Of course, if you have a plant network, would not recommend being as liberal with creating these modules. We're going to close as we're not going to create anything else. And as you can see, we have the switch inside of the IO tree in Studio 5000. So the general question is, why would you want to do this? And the reason is because you can now configure everything when it comes to the switch from the same interface. You can also receive different alerts and port statuses within your PLC logic, which means that you can restrict certain ports dynamically. You can, for example, if somebody plugs in with a device that is unauthorized, you can restrict access. You can see, for example, again, if there's a malicious attempt on going into your machine, you can simply restrict or shut down the process. You can have other decisions. Again, the application is up to you to create, but ultimately you're getting all of the status from within your PLC. And of course, you will also notice that there's going to be a input tag that is created now for this Joltek switch 001. And if we open up the controller tags, I should be able to find that entire structure pre-created by the PLC program. And as you can see, here's exactly where we can find it. And of course, it's going to give us a different set of tags, like I've mentioned, based on unauthorized devices, which ports are connected. So now that I can see two of the ports are utilized, again, one is for my laptop, one is going to be for the PLC coming off that switch, I can create different set of logic within my PLC to respond differently if different assets are plugged in. I'll give you another example. You can have movable skids. So for example, if you're going to move a certain physical asset, you need to maybe plug it in before it allows you to start the machine, because there's going to be critical IO components on that specific equipment. So this gives you a little bit more flexibility than just with any other switch off the shelf that does not integrate as well into the Rockwell or Allen Bradley / Stratix environment. In any case, if you have any questions on this side, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll do our best to answer them as quickly as possible.